Florian of the Roaring 420's on the Fishbowl. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking the time to swim in the bowl with me.
Sure. It's pretty weather outside.
It's nice weather here in Pittsburgh as well. We're getting like a break from the insane heat wave that was passing through, and now it's quite windy and but actually nice out.
Cool. Sounds like over here.
Awesome. The first thing I'd like to ask is what got you interested in music?
Well, I guess that was way back, like as teenagers in high school. I think I bought my first guitar when I was 14 or so. It was like bands like Nirvana, Like at the time, I think this was what all the kids were into, and would kind of turn you on to rock music. Instead of like becoming a jock in high school, you grab a guitar and start playing.
Right, right. Awesome. So first of all, I love the band name, Roaring 420's. Really dig it. I have to admit that's actually how I got into you guys. Sitting around smoking some good stuff and jamming out to some new and interesting music. And I really, really, really like your guys' sound a lot.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually part of like this new wave of rock and roll, which like I'm very excited to talk to you guys about because this new like wave that I've been seeing a lot of is like what I kind of call retro 60s revival. And it's just like, a fusion of everything that was awesome in the 60s and 70s and just like reinvented in a new way, but still has that like retro sound. And I was wondering, who are some of your major influences and what got you guys to get to that sound point?
I think it's kind of started like when we met like 6 or 7 years ago. And we met Lulu and Martin and I. We have actually known each other for a while. And he was playing bass in a different band, and I was playing in a kind of like surf 60s style group at that time and was writing songs. And I would say like in the first place it was bands from the 60s like the Velvet Underground, for example, was a huge influence, and also like a common denominator when we started out the Roaring for 20s. And so I think it started in the first place with the 60s bands. Interesting is that then, like you mentioned, this whole revival came. And suddenly you had like all these bands that are referencing these groups, like for example, there's so many bands you can tell, like the 13th Floor Elevators, for example, had an impact on, like especially Texas groups. And it was really interesting to see how all this developed, like bands like, I remember the first time, for example, we saw All of Us on YouTube, their first single had like 500 clicks, and then this band just, became like really huge, So I would say, it's like kind of nowadays, like you're meeting these people, you're getting together and you're exchanging ideas, and it's same for us. It's super interesting to meet people who are like-minded, Whereas like back in the day, it was more a thing about I would say, well, we just play the music that we listened to the most, and that was at that time was music from the 60s, because like this whole revival wasn't as big as it is nowadays.
Right, right. And it's really interesting you say that. I mean, it's just really interesting how different eras of music like play out on new generations, and how music really is timeless, and
Absolutely.
yeah, I mean, and how like people, if we're still here 100 years from now, we'll be listening to bands like Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin and The Who, and as well as how many other bands that came out, and how music evolved since then and is continuing to evolve, and will have a whole new impact on the world 100 years from now with whatever music comes out between now and then. And just interesting to see how influences play out on new generations and allow new music to evolve and grow into something new.
Mm. That's right. And I mean, like, especially nowadays, we have this phenomenon that basically we have the biggest archive of music available. We have like decades of music, and like really lots of bands, really lots of obscure groups. You can like draw influences from. I mean, this hasn't been like that 50 years ago or so. So I think it's also a very special situation right now that has never been like that before.
Yeah, definitely. That actually brings me to my next question, which is, who are some of your favorite bands of all time, versus who are some of your favorite current bands?
I would say favorite bands of all time. Like classics, like I mentioned, the Velvet Underground.
Yeah.
For example, mostly groups from the 60s, I would say, with favorite bands of all time. Like for me, it's a little bit with, for example, Martin. He has a different musical background. He's coming more from the grunge scene, and but yeah, I would say like either bands we grew up with, who were contemporary back then, or like these all-time favorites that mostly boil down to 60s groups. And I would say with current bands, it's lots of bands from lots of groups from the recent garage revival and psychedelic revival, like White Bands, for example, is a great artist. Tim Presley, the Growlers had a couple of great albums. Like I said, like every album is a really great gem. And then I mean, there's nowadays there's so many bands. Like for example, we also listen to a lot of Strange Boys from Austin, Texas. Band unfortunately doesn't exist anymore, but was one of our favorite groups also.
Awesome.
So yeah, there are a lot actually.
Awesome. Now, I actually am a very big fan of the Velvet Underground. Lou Reed was definitely up there and one of my favorite artists from that era. I'm definitely very much into like the psychedelic rock sound, and there's so many different like variations of it now, especially these days. It's like you have your heavy psychedelic rock, kind of like Jimi Hendrix spawned, and then you have your like kind of more laid back psychedelic that like Pink Floyd and Lou Reed and people like bands like that, have spawned. And one of my favorite bands that's out today is the Dandy Warhols and the Brian Jonestown Massacre. And I was kind of lucky enough for my birthday last year. The Dandy Warhols came to Pittsburgh on my birthday, and I bought VIP tickets to go meet them and see them. And I was lucky enough that they actually performed what my top favorite song by them, which is called "And Then I Dreamt of Yes," which is it's a very, very psychedelic, kind of stoner type song. One of their more mellow, laid back ones, and it was just really great to have that experience, but also talk to another band that's kind of like in the same genre of music that you guys are?
I mean, it's sort of like I feel like it kind of started with these groups, Like I remember when Dandy Warhol did it big with You Mean Like You. There was a whole new sound, like I mean, when was this in like 2001, 2002 or so? Anyways, but I remember that like lots of also groups that we're meeting and who were into the psychedelic music, they are referencing like these bands and movie big, that came along with it, I think kind of started with these groups, the whole revival. I don't know how you feel about this.
Oh yeah, I definitely think that's the case. I mean, like that's probably why I like the Dandy Warhols and Brian Jonestown Massacre so much, is because they kind of paved the way for you guys and how many other bands that are following the retro '60s revival concept, and really it was like the idea of the Dandy Warhols and the Brian Jonestown Massacre with who they were following and who their influences were, to kind of like reimagine a new genre of rock and roll, which now you have you guys and how many other bands out there that are just following in their footsteps and just taking notes, and it's now just become like a whole new genre, and I really am digging it a lot.
Yeah, I think that for me it's kind of mind-blowing with all this music like because I remember in the 90s I was kind of disappointed by that the rock scene was dominated more by bands like Limp Bizkit or so, Linkin Park, and that was a refreshing thing, but bands like Dandy Warhols or so,
Right. I mean, I definitely like grunge and 90s alternative. I'm not really like a big Limp Bizkit or Linkin Park fan, but bands like you mentioned earlier, like Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Rage Against the Machine, the Smashing Pumpkins, all those guys. I grew up with that. I'm an '80s kid, '88. Grew up in the '90s, and it was that was like essential stuff to listen to growing up. But I didn't really get into like the Dandy Warhols and the Brian Jonestown Massacre till I was older. And like I when I was young, I thought like this is all that's out there because that's what's on the radio. And when I got older and could explore music and more options open to explore music, I started getting into all these different genres of rock because I really like rock music as a whole, but there's so many different subgenres within rock and roll that you can literally have an endless amount of music based on one general concept, and it's just really cool to now have all these different revenues to explore music and find out about all these different bands that are out and everything, and it's just really cool, and I really like what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
I was wondering, so your first album is What Is Psych, came out in 2014. That's probably my favorite album. I also do like You Can't Get Out Alive, which came out in 2015. But What Is Psych is really my favorite so far. I was wondering, are you guys working on any new material or anything?
Actually, yeah. We're working on a third album, and we have like the majority of songs together. Still need to record it. And yeah, it's gonna be. I don't know how to describe it. I mean, we have to wait for the recording. The thing is, like, this time we try to have a more like central approach to the content. this is like an album more about touring and about lessons we've learned on tour, stories we've experienced on tour, and so this is like a documentary album more or less.
Awesome. I'm actually really interested to hear that. Are some of the tracks going to be, because I know you guys have some long tracks, which I really, really like a lot. Like, if I find, actually the first thing I look for when exploring a new band is if they have long tracks. I really like the longer stuff. If a band has like a song that's 5 minutes or longer, I'm automatically going to give them a listen. I also really like bands that have really interesting cover art on their albums, and I really like your guys' cover art. And I was wondering who was in charge of designing that.
I've been doing this actually for most of the part. Well, basically, actually for all of it. Yeah.
Awesome. What kind of gave you the idea to do the album cover for What Is Psych and You Can't Get Out Alive? What were some of the inspirations?
I would say, for the first album, that was basically that we needed a cover artwork as quick as possible, and it kind of looks psychedelic because it's the first release of the new band, and we kind of wanted to make it clear, like right from the beginning, what kind of music it is. So that's why we went for a pretty classic, like psychedelic artwork. And the second one, I would say that was more like inspiration from like vintage postcards and collage art.
Awesome. Well, I really like that. Like I said, the two album covers are really awesome, and one of the other things that helps me personally discover new bands is the album artwork, and usually 9 times out of 10, if I am on Spotify and I'm looking for new bands to listen to through like related bands or something, and I see they have an interesting album cover, 9 times out of 10, the band ends up being pretty awesome, and it actually has not failed me yet. And that's sort of how, I discovered you guys. Was I happened to look at the album artwork for What Is Psych, and also, of course, your guys' band name helped get me to that direction as well, that point as well, I again just really, really like your guys' sound, and I can't wait to see what you guys put out next. I was actually wondering, is there any chance of a U.S. tour?
We have currently planning in this direction. Of course, we want to go to the U.S. and play a tour, but I think we're gonna finish the album first, and then we're gonna figure it out maybe next year or so, because it also takes some time for preparation. You have to plan like really ahead. So, but definitely we want to do that.
Awesome. Well, if you guys come to Pittsburgh, I can name right off the bat several venues that you'll want to look at. One is Club Cafe. It's owned by a person, I forget who the person's name is, but they own a few concert venues in Pittsburgh, and that's one. Another one is Mr. Small's, and it's actually pretty cool because it used to be a church, and they converted into a concert venue, and it actually happens to be like my favorite concert venue in Pittsburgh. And I would love to see you guys come to Pittsburgh and play a show, and I would be there with as many people as I can haul in my car and ask them to haul in their cars as well. But speaking of touring, let's talk about your most recent tour to Israel.
Yeah, yeah.
What was that like?
That was a great tour, actually. It was the first time for us in Israel, and we were lucky that like a good friend of ours who was booking the shows, and he was also hosting us and going on the road with us. And it was really interesting. I mean, it's a very unique country, and but the people were very nice, and the shows were really fun. And yeah, like so many different impressions, you know. Like what kind of struck me about the whole thing was, of course, it's a point, you know, that artists are canceling the Israel tours, so like you know, for example, when they received letters about the waters or so. And it kind of struck me that because you have a small psychedelic scene in Israel as well, and really cool bands on the scene, and of course they're looking forward, you know, to like some artists coming to Israel, you know, and then it's for political reasons that this is not going to happen. You know what I mean? It's kind of. I think it's a little bit unfair, you know, to those people, you know, who want to go to, you know, see a band and support a band, you know. And this has nothing to do with like politics or something, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what's.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so that was, you know, like one thing that kind of struck me about this whole discussion, because it's also a topic, you know, that people of course talk about, you know, and like lots of people were, for example, like you know, were telling us, you know, that it's cool that we're actually coming to Israel because that many bands are actually touring in Israel. Also, they have a fan base in Israel.
Right. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, just go ahead.
Okay. I was just going to like agree with everything you said, you know, because I'm actually Jewish, and I've been to Israel once before. In the U.S. they have a organization called Birthright Israel, and basically the idea with this organization is if you're Jewish, you know, even if you're half Jewish, the idea is that every young Jewish male or female should be able to go to the homeland and visit it, you know, for free at least once in their lifetime. And they have this organization basically orchestrates trips, you know, all throughout the year, and it's like a free 2-week trip basically, where they have all different types of trips, and you get to, you know, all you really have to pay for is your lunches, and the airfare, breakfast and dinner is all, you know, provided for you. Transportation is provided for you, and you know, I got to go to Israel in the winter of 2013, and it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, because I had never really been to a different country. I've been to like Canada before. I don't really count Canada, you know, but Israel was really, really awesome. And I feel like it gets a bad rep, especially, you know, with, you know, people's political agendas, and it's just not the case out there. I mean, it's a really awesome place, and there's so much to do there, and in a lot of ways it's like the U.S., you know, with how things work and how people, you know, act and everything. But you know, it was just the people there were, you know, really, really nice, you know, open to talking about anything that, you know, you wanted to talk about. And you know, if people came and they're really interested in Birthright people, because it's people from the U.S. that may or may not have been to Israel um, at all, or they've been there a few times before, but they're just really happy to have people come over there and see that country for what it actually is, which is a very peaceful and loving place.
Mm-hmm. I can only agree. That was a totally recent our experiences in Israel. And it's cool that you have programs from the U.S. that provide this kind of opportunity that people can go and see the place, especially because, like you said, it's the whole political stuff was kind of a little weird, you know. So
Right, and it's unfortunate because that's not what that place is, and it really they really deserve to have bands from all over the world come to that country and you know get to play there and experience that country for what it really is. And it just makes me happy that, like, because when I was messaging you guys, I saw in your Facebook page that you were going there, and immediately I was like, fucking A. Like, awesome. That gives me something to talk to these guys about that I wouldn't really have to talk about with any of the other people that I've interviewed. And I've interviewed a lot of people. I'm up to like almost 50 episodes total. Wow. And it's just really awesome to talk to one, a musician, and two, a person that got, not only is a musician but got to go to that country and tour it as a musician. So it's just really awesome to hear, and I'm really glad that you guys had an awesome experience there, and we'll most likely go back whenever you guys get a chance.
Of course. Especially this friend I was telling about who helped us out with the tour. He's a musician also, and we are also running a record label here in Germany, and we can bring out his record. Actually, it's out right now, and it's the name of his project, Bigfoot. So if you want to check it out, there's some really nice psychedelic music, kind of 60s style. With some, flourishes of sitar and nice guitar. I think you could like it.
Awesome. And, it's called Bigfoot.
Bigfoot, right. You can check out It's a Gas Records.
Awesome. I'm totally gonna do that. Like after we hang up, I'm like, I got a new band to check out. And who knows? I'll most likely, if you suggested him and you say psychedelic rock, I'll most likely like it. And if you could, ask him if he wants to do an interview, I'd probably get him on the show.
Oh yeah, he'd love to. I can ask him basically after we finish this interview. I will drop him. We'll drop him a line.
Awesome. The last question I'd like to ask is, I know we've been talking about music the whole time, but my show also focuses on film and talking about movies and stuff, and I was wondering, what are some of your favorite films?
I'd say I pretty much like psychedelic movies of the 70s, like the, for example, the Jodorowsky movies, like El Topo, Holy Mountain. These are just awesome. Italian cinema has great directors, also in the like in the 70s, like Federico Fellini. Don't know if you've seen it, but I think the most prominent one is La Dolce Vita. Great movie, Iku's in there, Velvet Underground. And I mean, even there's like so many great movies around. Hard to pin it down, like even the couple, you know what I mean?
Right. I mean, personally, I'm very much into like horror movies and sci-fi movies.
Nice.
Um, but I also like one of my favorite Italian directors or writer directors is Dario Argento.
I was just going to ask you, about Mario Argento because funny thing was that a couple of years ago he came to our hometown Dresden to a movie festival and showed this whole retrospective of his movies, and the interesting thing is that basically all of his movies are banned in Germany because due to like its violence and yeah, and then basically, he gave a press conference, and at the time I've been working for a magazine, and I was asking him about this, how he feels, and he said it basically breaks his heart that he has a fan base in Germany, and basically all over the world, like directors like Quentin Tarantino are referencing him. But then at the same time, all his movies are banned, and he was like kind of sad about this. And this film festival, the organizers would basically hand him this award for life his movies, which is pretty nice. He was around the whole weekend, so we could basically walk up to him, talk to him, and he's a nice, funny old guy.
That's awesome. That's awesome. One more thing about Dario Argento is, back to music real quick. Is he has a band called Goblin that that does all the music for the scores for his films, and I think it was last October, Goblin came to Pittsburgh because the guy who formed the group, I believe his dad or grandpa or something is from Pittsburgh, so he always likes to come back to Pittsburgh and do a show. And I saw them live and got to talk to them for a brief period of time, and it was an awesome show, really really well done and very interesting too. The whole band and everything, and the music they played, and having like the movie the like clips from the film as like the backdrop for them performing. It was really really interesting. But those again, using like music and film kind of go hand in hand. And I often try to incorporate music into my scripts because like I went to school for screenwriting, and I love to write movies, but my favorite thing to do when writing movies is thinking of certain songs and types of music that I can incorporate into my scripts to kind of like set the tone for what you're about to witness on screen. And I always thought like music and film kind of go hand in hand.
Absolutely. I mean, actually, I'm also like working on some instrumental stuff, some instrumental tracks right now, and it's pretty much influenced by movies or by like scenes of movies, and that you have in mind when you're composing. And I totally agree. It's totally goes hand in hand.
Awesome. I could not agree more. Well, I think this is probably a good place to stop. I'd like to thank you again for coming to swim in the bowl with me. It was
thanks for having me
on the show. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna. It's again, just I'm a real fan of your music, and I cannot wait to see what you guys come up with next.
We'll let you know. Don't burn.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for coming to swim in the bowl with me.
Thanks for having me. And check out Bigfoot and check out Insect Records. We have a couple of other bands, also some US bands like the Blank Page or the Candy Mountain came up with a really great album last year. Check it out. I think you will like it.
I definitely will. I'm excited to check out Bigfoot. Now that you mentioned that, and I'm actually gonna go do that right now.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Hey, thank you so much, Sam.
Absolutely. Bye.
Yeah, hear you next time.
Definitely.
Bye.
Bye.